everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we'd do this really fun Eclipse card, and we're going to be using the Tritone Colored Pencils to do our coloring. So I'll show you those here in a minute. For stamps today, I'm using the Art Impressions Exclusive Hydrangeas Set, and we're going to be using that one in the upper left hand corner there, and later on we'll be using one of those sentiments as well. So again, that's the Exclusive Hydrangea Set, and for paper I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock, and this piece of paper measures 2 3/4 by 5 3/4, and that's going to sit on our mini slimline card, which is, this is 6 inches by 6 inches, and once I score that down the center at 3 inches, this card will be 3 by 6 inches. So that's typically what I use for a mini slimline, although there are other sizes that you can do as well. Now I just want a little bit of black showing around the edges, so I cut a black piece just slightly larger than this panel here. So on this panel, we're going to start our stamping. We're going to be using that one stamp that was in the upper left-hand corner of our packaging there. And of course, you could mix all of those stamps together if you want to, but I'm just going to stick with this one design. Now I'm using my VersaFine Onyx Black permanent ink to do my stamping, and I just have an eraser here. I've been playing around with doing some chalkboard writing, so I happen to have this eraser, and I find that it's working pretty well. So I'm just going to use that to press out my images. So I'm going to just move this stamp around, and as you noticed, I placed that paper in the center of my MISTI so that I have plenty of room to move this stamp, and I'll have room to go off the edges as well. You do want it to look like the pattern continues. Now for my Eclipse card, I'm using an all-over pattern, but if you don't want it to be as busy as this, you can just do a little bit of stamping down along the bottom edge or just the outer edges. So play around with this technique because it's really fun to try different things with this. But I thought I would just do this all over hydrangea pattern here. And again, I want it to look like the pattern is just continuing on off the paper here. So I'm cleaning it off each time before I stamp it again. I'm wiping it down really well. And here I'm just going to slide it over just a little bit so I can get one more stamp in here off to the side. And I did decide to stamp one more, a little part of a leaf down here at the very bottom. So again, I moved that paper around on my MISTI so that I could fit that in there. So to do my coloring today, I'm using the Tritone Koh-i-noor Colored Pencils. These are a tri-colored pencil, and they're really beautiful. The colors are just gorgeous, and you get 3 colors in each pencil. And the color is just kind of random in the pencils. And I will show you that here in a second. I'm going to grab the colors that I'm using for today. And then to do my blending, there is a blender pen included with this pencil set. But I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir Gamsol today. And you do want to read the instructions on the Gamsol. Make sure you read that warning label. You do want a well-ventilated area when you're doing this. So please make sure to read those instructions. And then I've just got my little paper stump here to do my coloring. And I bought this set that includes all these different sizes. And I also have this little sharpener as well, which is really just a little bit of sandpaper here. And you just want to roll that little paper stump around this sandpaper and just get a nice sharp point on that. So you may want to sharpen that as we go along as well. So I'm going to put a little bit of this in the lid of the Gamsol, and then I'm just going to cover that with a piece of paper just so that I can reduce the fumes. And I also did open the window in my craft room while I was working on this. So for blues, I'm using Summer Sky and Twilight. Then I'm using the violets, and then the meadow and rainforest. And here you can see that there are multiple colors inside each of these pencils. So there's 3 colors in each pencil, which is really, really interesting. And on on the pencil there, it shows you what those colors are. Those little bands around the pencil show you the colors, and there you can see that there are the different colors in there. So that was the violets. This one here is the meadow. And then I'll show you one of the blues as well, which is the summer sky. So let me go ahead, and here I am going to be using the 2 different shades of the blues and the 2 different shades of the greens as well. So let me show you a little bit of blending with these. So I'm just going to get that stump. I'm going to absorb some of that Gamsol up into the stump here, and then I'm just going to blend that out just so you can see the different colors in here. And there you can see that there's a few different colors. Now the pink didn't show up too much there. So what I can do is turn that pencil a little bit. Just turning it around will get some different colors off the pencil there, and you can see a little bit more of that pink. I also found that by sharpening the pencils, I could get different colors to kind of come to the surface a little bit better as well. So you could think of that as you're going along. You could sharpen the pencil a little bit to reveal a little bit more of a color that you're looking for. Like if you're looking for a little bit more of the pink in the violet tones, you can do that as well. So that's just to give you a little idea of how these blend out. So let's go ahead to our card here. And I am going to heat set this very quickly. And then I'm starting with the violets. And what I'm doing is applying that color. I'll get a little bit closer here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to apply that color right in the very center of each of these little flowers. And then I'm taking that stump, dipping it in the Gamsol, and then I'm just going to blend these out. And I'm keeping the centers the darkest and then blending out to the tips of the petals. And you'll start to see those variation of color starting to show up here. And I have to say, for the hydrangeas, this was just such a beautiful combination. It really gave them a very realistic look, I thought, where hydrangeas do have more than one color to them. So here you can see that you're getting a little tiny bit of that pink, some purple and some lighter purple there. So I'm going to continue to blend these out. I did want to keep this in. I'm going to just show one of the flowers on camera. The rest of them I won't bore you with. I will color off camera, but I did want to show you one whole flower, just so you could see that I added some shadows here and there. And then what you can do is go back over them. Here you'll see I'm adding a little bit more of a darker tone in the center of these flowers. So you can keep working these until you get that look that you're going for. And you can do multiples of these at the same time. You could really color all the centers and then come in with your Gamsol. I just worked in some smaller areas here. It's very forgiving. I didn't spend a lot of time on this. I just simply colored them in and added that blending. Now again, as I went along, you can also sharpen that pencil or just kind of turn it as you go so that you'll get some different colors coming off that pencil. So this is the first time I'm using these, and I am intrigued by them. I find that to get this kind of blending would take a lot of work, I feel like, with your colored pencils. And I'm not really a colored pencil expert, but I found that this was so simple and easy to blend. So I really had a lot of fun doing this. Now that stump was getting a little bit flat on top. So what I'm doing is I'm just going back and sharpening that up again. And you kind of want to lay it on its side a little bit and then sharpen it until you get a nice pointed tip. And here I'm just adding a few more dark areas in the centers. So you can see that up close, and I just think that is just so beautiful. So let's go ahead and do the leaves. And I'll go to the two greens. Again, those would be a meadow and rainforest. And I'm going to start with that lighter set of colors. And I'll blend that out. And then I'll come in with that darker trio of colors here. And just add a little shadow here at the base of the leaf and then pull that out towards the edges. And you can see that as well. And you get that really nice highlight in there. So if you're not so sure about colored pencils, this might be a way to go for you. Now I've got the two blues, and again, those are Summer Sky and Twilight. And I thought I would fill in all the background with the blue. So I'm going to lay down a really light color, a really light application of that, and I did accidentally pull in a little bit of the green here, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep blending until I get rid of that green. I'm adding those darker blues anyway, so I'm going to put those right around the edges of the flower just to create a little shadow here, and that'll make these flowers look a little bit more three-dimensional. And then I'll place that darker blue along the opposite edge of the flowers, and I'll do the same thing. And I did that all the way around here. So I filled in all that background area with the blues. Okay, so here's the finished colored panel here. And again, you can see all that variation of color that we have. So now let's go ahead and do the eclipse technique. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take these alphabet letters and I'm going to spell out the word hello. Now I didn't have obviously two L's, so I'm looking for a die that's pretty close in size to the L, just so that I can space these out. So if you don't have the two letters that you need that are the same, you can just find one that's the same width or the same size. So these are the block letters die set, and this is from Art Impressions as well. And I've gone ahead and taken that panel now, and I'm placing it on my We Are Memory Keeper silicone mat just so they don't slide around. I just want to position these down, and this mat will hold these letters in place while I do this. And I'm coming in 1/4 inch from each side of my panel, and then I'm just going to kind of eyeball that these are spaced out evenly. Again, using that question mark as my spacer here for the other L. Now, once you have that spaced out, you want to make sure that you remove that question mark, because we do not want to die cut that. So believe me when I tell you I've made that mistake before. So make sure that you take out the letter that's just a filler. Now I'm using my 1.5 inch purple tape, and I'm taping that down. So I want to make sure I tape that in place, and then I'm going to go ahead and place it right on my card panel. Again, just centering it on the card panel here. Just take a little time to make sure you line that up nice and straight. And then I'm just going to press down that purple tape a little bit here just to make sure that it doesn't move around. So now I'm just taping it down to my platform on my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine, and I'm running that through. And that's going to die cut out these letters. And you want to carefully remove that purple tape. I think I pressed it down just a little bit too hard, so you want to just lightly press it down just to make sure the letters don't move around. So now I've got all of these letters, and I do need to die cut another one of the L's. So I'll grab a little bit of the purple tape here, and then I'm placing it on my glass media mat so that you can see what I've cut out so far here. And then I'm going to position that L in place And then I can go ahead and run that through the die cutting machine one more time. Okay, so now we have the entire word die cut. So I'm going to die cut another set of these letters out of some white 100-pound cardstock. You could use black here as well. Oh, and you could stack up as many of these letters as you want, but I am going to use some foam mounting tape behind these. So I'm just adding one more layer just to thicken them up a little bit, and then we'll use the foam mounting tape to raise them up off the card a little bit more. So I went ahead and die cut all of those letters, and I'm going to glue these together. Now, once I've done that, you can see those are a little bit thicker now. I'm going back to my card. So I'm going to add glue all around the back of this black layer, and I'm going to layer that on my card. Again, that'll just leave a little white border around the edges here. And now I've got my card panel, so I'm going to go ahead and put some glue all the way around the back of that. And I'm using the Gina K Connect glue to do this. So here I wanted to show you that you could certainly just leave the card like this. You could just fill in that little circle in the hello, in the O, and just complete the card that way so that you'd have two cards, and then you could use those other letters on another card. But to do the Eclipse technique, we're going to place these back into this card. So keep that in mind if you're going to make these. You could always just make two cards with what you've done here, which would also be really beautiful. So here I'm putting some foam mounting tape on the back of each of the letters, and I'm going to place those right in here, just like a puzzle piece. I'm going to place those right back in. Now again, as I mentioned earlier, if you want the letters to show up more than this, you can certainly not add as many of the flowers. You could just add flowers along the bottom or around the edges. So do what you like to do. Do what you like to see. Here I really loved how this was kind of almost hidden in the card. But certainly if you find that that's too busy, you can simplify this a little bit. So now I'm putting that O back in, and I'm going to remove that foam mounting tape from the back. I realized that it really needed to be recessed into the card here like the rest of the flowers. So I'm just going to put that in. And make sure when you're putting your letters back in that they line up perfectly with your flowers on your background. So now I'm going to take my white Uniball gel pen and add a little bit of white to the centers of each of these flowers. Now I've got the Just a Note to Say Hi from that same set that we used earlier. I'm going to cut off the word hi, and I'm just going to take my time here, and I will save that so that I can always put it back together again later if I want to. So since that's so tiny, you want to make sure you put that in a nice safe place. And I'm using my anti-static powder tool just to take any static off of this black cardstock. And here I'm using a black 100-pound cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up, and I'm using my Hero Arts Unicorn Pigment ink to do my stamping. And this is going to be an embossable ink. So I'm just tapping it on lightly, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this. So let's go ahead and emboss this. I'm using the Ranger Super Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. I'll sprinkle that on, tap off any excess, and then I can heat that with my heat tool. Now I'll just cut this down to size. Just want to create a little banner here. So I'm using my Tim Holtz paper trimmer just to cut this down. So now we can go ahead and glue this to the front of the card. And then I decided to add some little jewels. These are these beautiful jewels from Pink Fresh Studios. And I decided to use some of those lavender ones. So I've placed them all over on this front panel, and I'm going to go ahead and glue these down. Again, I'm using that Gina K Connect glue because it's a nice strong adhesive. So I've glued all of those on, so let's take a closer look at the finished card. And there you can see that by placing that black panel underneath there, we have that beautiful black eclipse shadow back there. Now you could certainly put any color back there that you wanted. You could use even what would be pretty as maybe like a holographic paper or metallic paper back there. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you give it a try. And thank you so much for joining me today. If you did enjoy today's video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.